Hey guys, if you haven't listened to The Pardoner's Tale, the prologue, pages 240 to 244, please do that before you listen to this. This is going to be the start of The Pardoner's Tale. So we'll start on page 244. The Pardoner's Tale. In Flanders once there was a company of youngsters, haunting vice and ribaldry, riot and gambling, stews and public houses, where each with harp, guitar, or lute carouses, dancing and dicing day and night, and bold to eat and drink far more than they can hold, doing thereby the devil's sacrifice within that devil's temple of cursed vice. Abominable in superfluity, with oaths so damnable in blasphemy that it's a grisly thing to hear them swear. All right, that was all one sentence, and it's telling us about these horrible young people that drink too much and eat too much and party too much and sing too many songs. They dance, they gamble, they do all things in superfluity, meaning to excess. Our dear Lord's body they will rend and tear as if the Jews had rent him not enough, and at the sin of others every tough will laugh, and presently the dancing girls, small pretty ones, come in and shake their curls, with youngsters selling fruit and ancient bawds, and girls with cakes and music, devils' gods, to kindle and blow the fires of lechery that are so close annexed to gluttony. All right, so not only do they swear and they dance and they drink and they eat and they gamble, but they also have sex out of marriage with girls that might charge money for it. And here he says, lechery and all of these other things are close annexed to gluttony. And you remember what the moral of every tale he tells is radix malorum est cupiditas, the root of all evil is greed. So here, the point of his story will be that all of these other vices stem from the first vice of gluttony. Witness the Bible, which is most express, that lust is bred of wine and drunkenness. Look how the drunken and unnatural Lot lay with his daughters, though he knew it not. He was too drunk to know what he was doing. All right, so that's a tale from the Bible, right? The tale of Lot sleeping with his daughters. He was too drunk to know what he was doing. Take Herod, too. His tale is worth pursuing. Replete with wine and feasting, he was able to give the order at his very table to kill the innocent Baptist, good St. John. Seneca has a thought worth pondering on. No difference, he says, that he can find between a madman who has lost his mind and one who is habitually mellow, except that madness, when it takes a fellow, lasts longer on the whole than drunkenness. Oh, cursed gluttony, our first distress, cause of our first confusion, first temptation, the very origin of our damnation, till Christ redeemed us with his blood again. Oh, infamous indulgence, cursed stain so dearly bought. And what has it been worth? Gluttony has corrupted all the earth. Adam, our father, and his wife as well, from paradise to labor and to hell, were driven for that vice. They were indeed. While she and Adam fasted, so I read, they were in paradise when he and she ate of the fruit of that forbidden tree. They were at once cast forth in pain and woe. Oh, gluttony, it is to thee we owe our griefs. Oh, if we knew the maladies that follow on excess and gluttonies, sure we would diet, we would temper pleasure in sitting down at tables, show some measure. Alas, the narrow throat, the tender mouth, men labor east and west and north and south, in earth and air and water. Why, do you think? To get a glutton dainty meat and drink. How well of this St. Paul's epistle treats, meat for the belly, belly for the meats, but God shall yet destroy both it and them. Alas, the filth of it, if we contemn the name, how far more filthy is the act. A man who swills down vintages, in fact, makes a mere privy of his throat a sink for cursed superfluities of drink. He's saying the man who drinks wine is making a bathroom of his throat and a sink for the excess of life. So the apostle said, whom tears could soften, many are there, as I have told you often, and weep to tell, whose gluttony sufficed to make them enemies of the cross of Christ, whose ending is destruction, and whose God their belly. O thou belly, stinking pod of dung and foul corruption, that canst send thy filthy music forth at either end, what labor and expense it is to find thy sustenance. These cooks that strain and grind and bray in mortars substantiate God's gifts into a flavor on a plate to please a lecherous palate, How they batter hard bones to put some marrow on your platter. Spicery, root, bark, leaf, they search and cull it in the sweet hope of flattering a gullet. Nothing is thrown away that could delight or whet a new lascivious appetite. Be sure a man whom such a fare entices is dead indeed, though living in his vices. Wine is a lecherous thing, and drunkenness a squalor of contention and distress. O drunkard, how disfigured is thy face, how foul thy breath. All right, so he's giving us a list of all of these other vices, and he's leading them all back to gluttony. All right, so we kind of have to wait to get back to those young people in the bar. We will return to them, but it's going to take a little bit of time. He's waxing poetic, I suppose. Wine is a lecherous thing, and drunkenness a squalor of contention. O drunkard, how disfigured is thy face, how foul thy breath, how filthy thy embrace. And through thy drunken nose a stertorous snort, like Samson, something of the sort. He's kind of mimicking a drunk person. Yet Samson never was a man to swig. You totter, lurch, and fall like a stuck pig. Your manhood's lost. Your tongue is in a burr. Here he's describing all of the various results of drinking, the physical results of drinking. Drunkenness is the very sepulcher, or the tomb, of human judgment and articulation, meaning when you're drunk, it's the death of your reason, of your speech. He that is subject to the domination of drink can keep no secrets, meaning you're willing to just tell everything, confess it. Be it said, keep clear of wine, I tell you, white or red, especially Spanish wines, which they provide and have on sale in Fish Street and Cheapside. That wine mysteriously finds its way to mix itself with others, shall we say spontaneously, that growing in neighboring regions. Out of the mixture fumes arise in legions. So when a man has had a drink or two, though he may think he is at home with you in Cheapside, I assure you he's in Spain, where it was made, at Le Pays, I maintain, not even at Bordeaux. He's soon elate and very near the Samson state. Okay, so again, he's speaking against drinking, but if you read the prologue, what has he been doing the entire time before he starts telling his tale? He's been drinking, so obviously a hypocrite. But seriously, my lords, attention, pray. All the most notable acts, I dare to say, and victories in the Old Testament, won under God, who is omnipotent, were won in abstinence, were won in prayer. Look in the Bible, you will find it there. Or else take Attila the Conqueror, died in his sleep, a manner to abhor in drunken shame and bleeding at the nose. A general should live sober, I suppose. Moreover, call to mind and ponder well what was commanded unto Lemuel, not Samuel, but Lemuel, I said. Read in the Bible, that's the fountainhead, and see what comes of giving judges drink. No more of that. I've said enough, I think. Having put gluttony in its proper setting, I wish to warn you against dice and betting. Gambling's the very mother of robbed purses. Lies, double-dealing, perjury and curses, manslaughter, blasphemy of Christ, and waste of time and money. Worse, you are debased in public reputation, put to shame. A common gambler is a nasty name. The more exalted such a man may be, so much the more contemptible is he. A gambling prince would be incompetent to frame a policy of government, and he will sink in general opinion as one unfit to exercise dominion. All right, so first he's railing against drinking. Now he's railing against gambling. Stilbin, that wise ambassador whose mission took him to Corinth, was of high position. Sparta had sent him with intent to frame a treaty of alliance. When he came hoping for reinforcement and advice, it happened that he found them all at dice. They're very nobles, so he quickly planned to steal away home to his native land. He said, I will not lose my reputation or compromise the honor of my nation by asking dicers to negotiate. Send other wise ambassadors of state, for on my honor I would rather die than be a means for Sparta to ally with gamblers. Sparta, glorious in honor, shall take no such alliances upon her as dicers make by any act of mine. He showed his sense in taking such a line. All right, so an example of when gamblers were proven to not win. Another example. Again, consider King Demetrius, the king of Parthia. History has it thus. Sent him a pair of golden dice in scorn to show he reckoned him a gambler born, whose honor, if unable to surmount the vice of gambling, was of no account. Lords can amuse themselves in other ways, honest enough to occupy their days. Now let me speak a word or two of swearing and perjury. The Bible is unsparing. All right, so he railed against drinking, he railed against gambling, now he's railing against swearing. Almighty God has said, swear not at all. Witness St. Matthew, and you may recall the words of Jeremiah, having care to what he says of lying. Thou shalt swear in truth, in judgment, and in righteousness. But idle swearing is a sin, no less. Behold, and see the tables of the law of God's commandments, to be held in awe. Look at the third, where it is written plain, Thou shalt not take the name of God in vain. You see, he has forbidden swearing first. Not murder, no, nor other thing accursed comes before that, I say, in God's commands. That is the order. He who understands knows that the third commandment is just that. And in addition, let me tell you flat, vengeance on him and all his house shall fall that swears outrageously, or swears at all. God's precious heart and passion, by God's nails and by the blood of Christ that his head hails, 7's my luck, and yours is 5 and 3. By blessed arms, if you play false with me, I'll stab you with my dagger. Overthrown by 2 small dice, 2 bitching bits of bone, their fruit is perjury, rage, and homicide. Oh, for the love of Jesus Christ, who died for us, abandon curses, small or great. But sirs, I have a story to relate. All right, finally, he's getting back to the story. All right, so he railed against drinking, he railed against gambling, he railed against swearing. Now we're back to those youngsters in the tavern, in the bar, that were doing all of those sins. They're called the rioters. And if you think about that name and think of all the things that they do, it'll kind of make sense, right? They're rioters. They're people that live their lives in excess. It's of 3 rioters, I have to tell, who long before the morning service bell, so this is in the AM, not the PM, in the morning, were sitting at a tavern for a drink. And as they sat, they heard the handbell clink before a coffin going to the grave. One of them, Little, called the little tavern knave and said, Go and find out at once, look spry, whose corpse is in that coffin passing by? And see you get the name correctly, too. Sir, said the boy, no need. I promise you 2 hours before you came here I was told. He was a friend of yours in days of old. And suddenly last night the man was slain upon his bench, face up, dead drunk again. There came a privy thief, they call him Death, who kills us all round here, and in a breath he speared him through the heart. He never stirred. And then Death went his way without a word. He has killed 1,000 in the present plague. And, sir, it doesn't do to be too vague. If you should meet him, you had best be wary. Be on your guard with such an adversary. Be primed to meet him everywhere you go. That's what my mother said. It's all I know. All right, so the 3 rioters see this coffin passing by, and they're like, hey, tavern boy, tell us who's in the coffin. Whose corpse is that? And the boy says, you know him. He's your friend. He died last night. He was slain. And the person who slay him is Death, capital D, Death. So Death is being personified here as like a thief and a murderer. And he says, he kills a lot of people around here. He's killed 1,000 in the plague. The publican joined in with, by St. Mary, what the child says is right. You'd best be wary. This very year he killed in a large village a mile away. Man, woman, serf at tillage, page in the household, children, all were there. Yes, I imagine that he lives round here. It's well to be prepared in these alarms. He might do you dishonor. God's arms, the rioter said. Is he so fierce to meet? I'll search for him by Jesus, street by street. God's blessed bones, I'll register a vow. Here, chaps, the 3 of us together now. Hold up your hands, like me, and we'll be brothers in this affair, and each defend the others, and we will kill this traitor Death, I say. Away with him, as he has made away with all our friends. God's dignity, tonight. Right, so they just made an oath together. They vowed together to kill Death. They made their bargain, swore with appetite, these 3, to live and die for one another, as brother born might swear to his born brother. And up they started in their drunken rage, and made towards this village, which the page and publican had spoken of before. Many and grisly were the oaths they swore, tearing Christ's blessed body to a shred. If we can only catch him, Death is dead. When they had gone not fully half a mile, just as they were about to cross a stile, they came upon a very poor old man, who humbly greeted them, and thus began, God look to you, my lords, and give you quiet. To which the proudest of these men of riot gave back the answer, What, old fool? Give place. Why are you all wrapped up except your face? Why live so long? Isn't it time to die? All right, so obviously they're not very nice people. Can you imagine saying that to an old man who says, God look to you, my lords, and give you quiet? I mean, that's a very nice thing to say. And they're telling him, isn't it time to die? You're so old. This old fellow looked him in the eye and said, Because I never yet have found, though I have walked to India, searching round village and city on my pilgrimage, one who would change his youth to have my age. And so my age is mine and must be still upon me, for such time as God may will. Not even death, alas, will take my life. So like a wretched prisoner at strife within himself, I walk alone and wait about the earth, which is my mother's gate, knocking with my staff from night to noon, and crying, Mother, open to me soon. Look at me, mother, won't you let me in? See how I wither, flesh and blood and skin. All right, so this is the old man speaking, and he says, well, he's actually answering the rioters' question. They said, why live so long? Isn't it time to die? And he says, well, despite me going through the earth and trying to die, God won't take me, and death won't take me either. In fact, I keep knocking on the earth and saying, open up and let me in, meaning I would like to be in the earth in a grave. But not even the earth will let him in. All right, we're going to keep reading his part. Alas, when will these bones be laid to rest? Mother, I would exchange for what were best the wardrobe in my chamber standing there for so long for yours. Aye, for a shirt of hair to wrap me in. She has refused her grace, whence comes the pallor of my withered face. But it dishonored you when you began to speak so roughly, sir, to an old man, unless he had injured you in word or deed. It says in Holy Writ, as you may read, Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor it, and therefore be it said, do no more harm to an old man than you, being now young, would have another do when you are old, if you should live till then. And so may God be with you, gentlemen, for I must go whither I have to go. All right, so he then kind of says, you should do to others as you would have them do unto you. God go with you. And then he tries to go away. By God, the gambler said, you shan't do so. You don't get off so easy by St. John. I heard you mention just a moment gone a certain traitor Death, who singles out and kills the fine young fellows hereabout. If you recall, the old man said that not even death would take him. And so these young rioters think that he's actually talking about death, capital D, death. And remember, they're out to kill Death. And so he says, you just said you know him. And you're his spy. By God, you wait a bit. Say where he is, or you shall pay for it. By God and by the Holy Sacrament, I say you've joined together by consent to kill us younger folk, you thieving swine. Well, sirs, he said, if it be your design to find out Death, turn up this crooked way towards that grove. I left him there today under a tree, and there you'll find him waiting. He isn't one to hide for all your prating. You see that oak? He won't be far to find. And God protect you that redeemed mankind, aye, and amend you. Thus that ancient man. At once the three young rioters began to run, and reached the tree. And there they found a pile of golden florins on the ground. That's money, lots of gold money. New coined, 8 bushels of them, as they thought. That's a lot of gold. No longer was it death those fellows sought, for they were all so thrilled to see the sight. The florins were so beautiful and bright that down they sat beside the precious pile. The wickedest spoke first after a while. Brothers, he said, you listen to what I say. I'm pretty sharp, although I joke away. It's clear that fortune has bestowed this treasure to let us live in jollity and pleasure. Light come, light go, we'll spend it as we ought. God's precious dignity, who would have thought this morning was to be our lucky day? If one could only get the gold away back to my house, or else to yours, perhaps, for as you know, the gold is ours, chaps, we'd all be at the top of fortune, hey? But certainly it can't be done by day. People would call us robbers. A strong gang, so our own property would make us hang. No, we must bring this treasure back by night, some prudent way, and keep it out of sight. All right, so they decide they can't bring all the gold back to their house during the daytime. People would think that they're robbers, and then they would lose the money. So they're going to hang out the money until nighttime and then try to move it. And so as a solution, I propose we draw lots and see the way it goes. The one who draws the longest, lucky man, shall run to town as quickly as he can to fetch us bread and wine, but keep things dark, while 2 remain in hiding here to mark our heap of treasure. If there's no delay, when night comes down, we'll carry it away, all 3 of us, wherever we have planned. He gathered lots, meaning like straws. He's drawing straws. He gathered lots and hid them in his hand, bidding them draw for where the luck should fall. It fell upon the youngest of them all, and off he ran at once towards the town. As soon as he had gone, the first sat down, and thus began a parley with the other. All right, so now there's just 2 of them back at the tree with all the gold, because the other one ran off to get wine and snacks. You know that you can trust me as a brother. Now let me tell you where your profit lies. You know our friend has gone to get supplies, and here's a lot of gold that is to be divided equally amongst us 3. Nevertheless, if I could shape things thus, so that we shared it out, the 2 of us, wouldn't you take it as a friendly act? All right, so he says, wouldn't that be better if it were just divided between the 2 of us instead of the 3 of us? But how? The other said. He knows the fact that all the gold was left with me and you. What can we tell him? What are we to do? It is a bargain, said the first, or no, for I can tell you in a word or so what's to be done to bring the thing about. Trust me, the other said. You needn't doubt my word. I won't betray you. I'll be true. Well, said his friend, you see that we are 2, and 2 are twice as powerful as 1. Now look, when he comes back, get up in fun to have a wrestle. Then, as you attack, I'll up and put my dagger through his back. While you and he are struggling as in game, then draw your dagger too and do the same. Then all this money will be ours to spend, divided equally, of course, dear friend. Then we can gratify our lusts and fill the day with dicing at our own sweet will. Thus these 2 miscreants agreed to slay the 3rd and youngest, as you heard me say. The youngest, as he ran towards the town, kept turning over, rolling up and down within his heart the beauty of those bright new florins, saying, Lord, to think I might have all that treasure to myself alone. Could there be anyone beneath the throne of God so happy as I then should be? All right, so now the 3rd one, who's off getting snacks and wine, says, wouldn't it be nice if I had all that gold to myself instead of dividing it among 3 people? And so the fiend, our common enemy, was given power to put it in his thought that there was always poison to be bought, and that with poison he could kill his friends. To men in such a state the devil sends thoughts of this kind, and has a full permission to lure them on to sorrow and perdition. For this young man was utterly content to kill them both, and never to repent. And on he ran, he had no thought to tarry, came to the town, found an apothecary, and said, Sell me some poison if you will, I have lots of rats I want to kill, and there's a polecat too about my yard, that takes my chickens and hits me hard, but I'll get even, as is only right, with vermin that destroy a man by night. All right, so he goes to the apothecary, who's kind of like a pharmacist, but also deals in poison. And he says, I have all these animals to kill. Now, this is a ruse. It's a lie. He's just trying to get poison to kill the other 2. The chemist answered, this is the same thing as the apothecary, or we might call him a pharmacist. The chemist answered, I have a preparation which you shall have, and by my soul's salvation, if any living creature eat or drink a mouthful ere he has the time to think, though he took less than makes a grain of wheat, you'll see him fall down dying at your feet. Yes, die he must, and in so short a while you'd hardly have the time to walk a mile. The poison is so strong, you understand. This cursed fellow grabbed into his hand the box of poison, and away he ran into a neighboring street, and found a man who lent him 3 large bottles. He withdrew, and deftly poured the poison into 2. He kept the 3rd one clean, as well he might, for his own drink, meaning to work all night, stacking the gold and carrying it away. So he poisons 2 bottles and keeps the 3rd one clean. And when this rioter, this devil's clay, had filled his bottles up with wine, all 3, back to rejoin his comrades sauntered he. Why make a sermon of it? Why waste breath? Exactly in the way they'd planned his death, they fell on him and slew him 2 to 1. Then said the first of them, when this was done, now for a drink. Sit down and let's be merry, for later on there'll be a corpse to bury. And as it happened, reaching for a sup, he took a bottle full of poison up, and drank, and his companion, nothing loath, drank from it also, and they perished both. So all three of them are now dead. The one by stabbing, the other two by poison. There is in Avicenna's long relation concerning poison and its operation, trust me, no ghastlier section to transcend what these two wretches suffered at their end. Thus these two murderers received their due. So did the treacherous young poisoner too. Okay, so that's the end of the Pardoner's tale, but you'll see here we still have like 2 pages left. And let's see what he does here at the end. Remember, this is a sermon that he's told crowds before. He's told to, quote, yokels, or people that are more gullible or less intelligent. But you'll see that he's doing this here to all the pilgrims that he's traveling with, and we'll see how they react. Oh, cursed sin! Oh, blackguardly excess! Oh, treacherous homicide! Oh, wickedness! Oh, gluttony that lusted on and diced! Oh, blasphemy that took the name of Christ with habit-hardened oaths that pride began! Alas, how comes it that a mortal man, that thou, to thy Creator, him that wrought thee, that paid his precious blood for thee and bought thee, art so unnatural and false within? All right, so he's really kind of getting into his sermonizing, his preaching. Okay, you have to imagine that he's used to telling this kind of sermon to a big crowd, and he's going to get money from it. Dearly beloved, God forgive your sin and keep you from the vice of avarice. My holy pardon frees you all of this, provided that you make the right approaches, that is, with sterling rings or silver brooches, meaning I will pardon you, I will absolve all your sins, but you have to pay me. Bow down your heads under this holy bull. Come on, you women, offer up your wool. I'll write your name into my ledger, so into the bliss of heaven you shall go. For I'll absolve you by my holy power, you that make offering clean as at that hour when you were born. That, sirs, is how I preach. So he's now turning to the pilgrims that he's traveling with and saying, look at me, aren't I good, aren't I great? And Jesu Christ, soul's healer, I, the leech of every soul, grant pardon and relieve you of sin, for that is best, I won't deceive you. One thing I should have mentioned in my tale, dear people, I have some relics in my bale, and pardons too, as full and fine, I hope, as any in England given me by the Pope. Now, we know that they're fake, right? Didn't he not confess in the prologue that all of his relics and all of his papal bulls are totally and utterly fake? And here, despite having just confessed this, he is kind of insulting the intelligence of the rest of the pilgrims and saying, hey, look, I have a lot of relics here and pardons too. You could all buy them. To have my absolution, if there be one among you that is willing to have my absolution for a shilling devoutly given, come, and do not harden your hearts, but kneel in humbleness for pardon, or else receive my pardon as we go. You can renew it every town or so, always provided that you still renew each time and in good money what is due. So I'll give you pardons now, and then when we travel to the next town, you can buy them again. You know, we can renew these pardons. It is an honor to you to have found a pardoner with his credentials sound, who can absolve you as you ply the spur in any accident that may occur. This is kind of like a guy selling insurance. You know, he's an insurance salesman. It's like insurance for your soul. And so insurance salesmen they're kind of creepy and sly, and or at least that's the connotation or the stereotype that we have in today's society. And they don't want to just sell something to you once. They want to continually charge you for something over and over again. This is the same thing for him. He's an insurance salesman for the soul. For instance, we are all at fortune's beck. Your horse may throw you down and break your neck. What a security it is to all to have me here among you, and at call with pardon for the lowly and the great, when soul leaves body for the future state. And I advise our host here to begin. The most enveloped of you all in sin, come forward, host. You shall be the first to pay and kiss my holy relics right away. Only a groat. Come on, unbuckle your purse. All right, so he just insulted the host. to a great deal. He said he's the most enveloped in sin. So you can probably imagine how the host will react to that, probably not kindly. No, no, said he, not I. And may the curse of Christ descend upon me if I do. You'll have me kissing your old breeches too, and swear they were the relic of a saint, although your fundament supplied the paint. Now by St. Helen and the Holy Land, I wish I had your bollocks in my hand instead of relics in a reliquarium. Have them cut off, and I will help to carry them. We'll have them shrined for you in a hog's turd. All right, so strong words from the host. He says, no, I will not give you money to pardon my sins. In fact, he would rather, instead of having those relics, have the pardoner's testicles in his hand, and when he had them in his hands, he would enshrine them in the poop of a pig. He would rather do that than have the relics from this pardoner. And if you recall from the general prologue, the pardoner was described as being a eunuch. So he's also making fun of him for not having his male genitalia anymore. The pardoner is so angry that he can't speak. The pardoner said nothing. Not a word. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. Well, said our host, if you're for showing pique, I'll joke no more, not with an angry man. So the host backs off. The worthy knight immediately began, seeing the fun was getting rather rough, and said, no more. We've all had quite enough. Now, master pardoner, perk up, look cheerly. And you, sir host, whom I esteem so dearly, I beg of you to kiss the pardoner. Come, pardoner, draw nearer, my dear sir. Let's laugh again and keep the ball in play. They kissed, and we continued on our way. Okay, so an odd ending to an odd tale from an odd man. We'll talk more about this kiss at the end. You could Google this. It's the Christian kiss of peace. But it doesn't make it any less awkward for anybody. And so we'll talk about the complexity of this scene when we get together in class. That's the end of the Pardoner's prologue and the Pardoner's tale. Thanks, guys.